right, so let's go ahead and jump right into this one, ladies and gentlemen. By now, you've probably heard about the far left activists who yell anti-ICE insults at agents, ignited gasoline in front of a federal building, and set off an incendiary device in New York City. Now, for years, radical left-wing activists have been told that immigration enforcement is fascism, that ICE agents are the enemy, and they are Trump's Nazi forces. So when you constantly repeat that level of rhetoric over and over and over again, it should not really come as a surprise when a violent leftist decides to act on that dangerous rhetoric and take matters into his own hand, which is why we've seen violence from the left drastically increase, even though the mainstream liberal media tries to downplay a problem that most certainly does exist. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. Let's start right here.
NBC News just exposed themselves as lying propagandists yet again, because now we have the video of what actually happened in NYC outside of 26 Federal Plaza, and it sure wasn't fireworks. NBC was quick to get on the internet and say that this wasn't a terrorist attack, it was just somebody setting off fireworks. And, you know, part of me wonders if they saw the man that did it, the video that they didn't want to share, saw what skin color he had, and knew that they had to cover for somebody that was doing criminal acts like this, because that's what NBC News does. I'm going to show you the actual video, and then we're going to talk about how asinine this statement is. Oh yeah, just fireworks, nothing to see here. It's not like he dumped gasoline or some sort of combustible on the ground with 2 bombs, hoping that they would explode. Just having some good old 4th of July fun. Be so effing for real. On top of all that, it seems that NBC, CNN, all of these left-wing news outlets really don't want anybody to see what this man looks like. Because apparently, if it doesn't fit their narrative, and, you know, if it was a white man, they would be sharing it all over the internet. But since he's not, and you can clearly see that, it's going to take them like 12 days to finally announce what his real motive was, which we all know. We all know what this man's problem was, because this is a federal building. This is associated with ICE. We know exactly why he did this. So all of the Democrats, Mamdani, anybody else that has spoken negatively about ICE and our federal agents has this on their hands. And they will continue to have these sort of events on their hands until they stop the toxic, disgusting rhetoric.
First, I want to explain to you here on the scene, we're actually watching as investigators are going through that cart that you just described that he allegedly pulled up here to this federal building, where sources tell us 2 rifles were inside. We actually just saw investigators pulling out some sort of sheet material with some large either painting or writing on it. And as you can see, they're kind of going through that cart as of now. What we learned from sources is that this person, who again is in custody at the moment, pulled up with this car, had 2 rifles in it, had a bunch of fireworks, and used somewhat of like a pellet gun to keep people away as he tried to light these fireworks, according to sources, and then threw this incendiary device at the building, 26 Federal Plaza, that houses ICE, houses other federal agencies, and also the New York FBI headquarters. We also know in that car, we're learning from sources, there were some sort of posters or writings about anti-ICE material. Right now, investigators are going through the criminal background of this individual who is in police custody, trying to figure out if he's had any sort of associations with police in the past. Is there some sort of checking the mental wellness of this person? These are all questions that they're continuing to ask.
Here we go again. Not shocking, not surprising at all. Not when you constantly have those on the left over and over and over and over again demonizing ICE agents, demonizing the Trump administration and their goal and objective for mass deportation. Not when you have the media constantly telling half-truths or just completely lying and manipulating the actual facts. You're going to have people like this who eventually decide, you know what, somebody got to do something about it. They're going to be the ones who decide that they want to play dress up and actually go out and do something stupid like this. And so let's take a look at the actual situation that occurred. Then we're going to get into this guy's social media, because when I tell you he's the typical 43-year-old loser who probably lives in his mother's basement and spends way too much time on adult content sites, because that's what guys who have no life do. That's not an understatement, ladies and gentlemen. But first, let's take a look at this. A man with a history of anti-ICE activity carried out an arson terror attack on a federal immigration courthouse in Manhattan. Videos show him dumping an accelerant at the building before setting it ablaze, where unfortunately you had 2 people who suffered injuries. And so take a look at this. And so you see the man run up with the gasoline, toss it, light it, somehow does not light himself on fire. Don't know how that did not happen. And then police, they catch up, arrest him. You hear the firework go off. That was the device he used to help light the fire. And they catch him. Yeah, and so when you have situations like this go down, you know you're going to eventually have this person's public information, such as their social media posts, who they're following. That's going to surface and become public information for everyone to see. And so it gives you an idea pretty much of like what type of individual you're dealing with here. And so let's take a look at Andrew Adabaka and his social media information, at least what they've discovered so far. And so it says, the man who set off the incendiary device by ICE officers in New York City this morning follows NYC Antifa and Antifa affiliated accounts. He also supported Luigi Mangione, views Trump as a fascist who needs to be impeached, pushed for more hate towards Elon Musk, was very pro-Palestine, and claimed that eugenics is really an American thing that Hitler copied. It also says that he was a massive adult content addict, with the majority of his feed full of it. And so you have this man, this 43-year-old guy who's clearly been radicalized by the left. And what kind of rhetoric is the left using? What is the constant language that they're constantly pushing out there? Here goes an example of that from very recently, from the New York City mayor himself. Take a listen.
ICE is an agency that has terrorized Americans across this country and others that live in this country. Just the other day, a man wasn't even 30 years old, said goodbye to his wife and his child, and moments later was shot by ICE agents in Maine. And this was not even a month after a man was killed in Texas.
Yeah, so there you have that. Zohran Mamdani pushing the same rhetoric. And this is what this individual and individuals like this hear over and over and over and over again, without full context, without understanding that there are investigations that need to take place, without understanding that before you can just simply point the finger at someone, you have to gather all of the facts. You can't just go off of social media posts, and you can't just go off of outrage from radical leftists who want to see America crumble. You have to actually go off of verified facts and information. And so with that being said, let's learn more about the suspect who was arrested. Take a listen to this.
Field office here, joined by the commissioner of the world's finest police department, New York City Police Department. Thank you, Commissioner Tisch, for being here. And Jamie McDonald, the Deputy United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, just before 9 a.m., a man by the name of Andrew Adabaka, A-R-R-A-B-A-C-A, arrived at 26 Federal Plaza, just behind us on Worth Street, at the employee entrance to the building, where he ignited gasoline. He poured gasoline onto the ground and ignited it with a lighter and an incendiary device. That device was a firework, a large firework in a canister. That proceeded to catch on fire, pretty big flame as you've seen on the internet. He then pulled out an airsoft rifle and fired 5 to 7 pellets, if you will, in the direction of 26 Federal Plaza. At that time, Federal Protective Services, 2 officers, a gray suit, a contractor with Allied that is employed to guard this building, and those 3 people and the 2 officers standing behind me in the blue shirts are the officers that intervened and took Mr. Adabaka into custody. Well, he had him on the ground. An FBI agent jumped in and they put handcuffs on him and took him in the building. He is currently in custody, and he has been interviewed. Adabaka is a former United States Army soldier. He was enlisted for approximately 4 years, serving from 2001 to 2005. He was a repairman or mechanic on Patriot missile systems. He is 43 years old. There were injuries in this. 3 people were injured, minor injuries, 1 civilian and 2 government employees. Right now, our evidence response team is out working with NYPD and our New York Joint Terrorism Task Force to collect evidence, to conduct interviews. We have located a vehicle of Mr. Arabaca's. We have seized that vehicle. We are procuring or obtaining a search warrant. Mr. Arabaca came armed with bad intentions. I will say that 26 Federal Plaza has long been a target of extremists, of terrorists, and today the extremism was brought here. The building was attacked. Mr. Arabaca was looking to injure people and harm people. He had 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, and 3 knives. Fixed blade knives. He had, as I said earlier, 6 incendiary devices or fireworks, and he had some other destructive items. Going forward today, like I said, we'll do more interviews, we'll collect more evidence, and we will, and I'll leave to Mr. McDonald to talk about charges. We take this very seriously. On his cart, he had a cart. He had anti-ICE literature on it. When he was being arrested, he yelled derogatory terms to ICE, used bad words, obviously. He is an anti-American, anti-government extremist. We know that from what he said. We know that from what he is.
Yeah, so there you have that. And so this man, once this finally gets put in front of a judge, and whoa, fingers crossed that is not put in front of some liberal judge who just gives him a slap on the wrist. But he needs to be made an example out of, so that way individuals like this realize you cannot do things like this. He needs to be made an example. He came there with bad intentions, and things could have turned out way worse than they actually did. They turned out bad, but it could have ended far worse if he would have actually been able to accomplish his full plan. He came with, just understand, I'm going to say it again, what he came with. He had 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, and 3 knives, and 6 incendiary devices, meaning he planned on, I guess, maybe lighting more fires or whatever. Whatever the case was, he had destruction on his mind. And you cannot continue to let individuals who buy in and constantly feed into this radical left rhetoric to be able to cause chaos and then get away with it with slaps on the wrist. He needs to be charged with domestic terrorism. However they got to figure it out. And he needs to be made an example out of. That way the next person who has this inclination of doing something so deranged and radical thinks, I don't want to spend the next 30 to 50 years of my life in a federal prison. But now let's go to Tom Homan and hear what he has to say. Check this out.
And as we now know, they are naming the suspect Andrew Arabaca. Not sure exactly how that's pronounced, but I do want to highlight what is on the screen here before it's removed. I'm being told that these are the things left behind by the suspect, Tom. It includes what looks like some sort of carry cart or a temporary wagon setup with the words "ICE off our streets." Again, I'm being told that this was the anti-ICE stuff that was on the suspect at the time, Tom.
Well, good luck with that. ICE isn't leaving the streets at all. Matter of fact, we're going to increase our presence in New York because of their sanctuary policies. Governor Hochul just signed legislation that ended our 287G agreements, that ended our cooperation with the sheriffs, which means rather than one agent arresting one bad guy in the jail or a 287G program, now we got to send a whole team, a fugitive operations team, to go look for that bad guy that we could have arrested in safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the agents, safer for the aliens, safer for the community. But because of their actions, their sanctuary state actions, now we got to send more agents there to do the same job that took less a few months ago.
Yeah, so there you have that. And so basically, you have Democrats and their sanctuary city policies, their political agenda, not only putting the American citizen in danger, but also, if we're being honest, I mean, this is a fact. They're putting the illegal migrant in danger. And I'm not talking about the violent criminal illegal migrant. I'm talking about the ones that Democrats claim, this is their claim. I'm talking about the illegal migrants that Democrats claim that they are actually trying to protect. You know, Democrats, their whole shtick was, before the socialists took over, at least, that they want to get rid of the violent offenders, the violent illegal criminals, but they want to protect and find a passage for those who are just trying to work and remain in this country. Well, great job, Democrats, because your sanctuary city policies and your inability to want to cooperate with ICE now puts everybody under the umbrella of illegal in danger. Which, I mean, hey, that's what it is in the first place, because President Trump said mass deportations. That's what 77 million Americans voted for, mass. Now, he said the violent offenders would be first, but first doesn't mean last. First doesn't mean only. First doesn't mean once we get those people, we'll walk away. First means exactly what it means. Focus on those individuals first. But just like Tom Homan has said, anybody who is in this country illegally, they are, yes, eligible for deportation, as it should be. And so those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.